So if you had 5 over 10,
Yeah.
is there any number that you can evenly divide both the top and the bottom by?
5.
Yeah. And so what would you get if you did that?
You would get one half.
Well done, 1/2. And that's because you have, for every one shaded, there's one not shaded. So shaded, not shaded, not shaded, shaded, not shaded, shaded, not shaded, 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 not shaded.
Fifths.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 5 rectangles, and you need to shade in 3 of them.
Yeah. How would you do the last one?
So it says 1/3. I think you would just need to shade in one of the squares.
What do you mean, one square?
One. I think so.
So one way you can do it is you can shade 1 and then leave 2.
Okay.
So if you shade 1, leave 2.
Okay.
Shade 1, leave 2, shade 1, leave 2. What kind of shape are you going to get there?
Shape.
Or what do you notice about the pattern?
Like a. Shape.
So what do you notice about the ones that got shaded?
They're all like, line.
Yeah, they're all in a straight line underneath each other. And that's because how many columns are there in total?
6.
So that's how many rows. How many columns going down?
Columns.
Yeah.
Well, 6.
You've got, that's the first, that's the second.
Oh, 18.
So that'd be how many squares? Just, you see it's like 1, 2, 3?
Yeah.
So there's basically 3 columns. And so 1/3 would be 1 column out of 3. So basically 1 is shaded, 2 are not shaded.
Okay.
But a longer way that will always work is to shade 1 and leave 2 blank, and just keep doing that until you reach the end.
Okay.
Any idea what would go in the box on the top there, or any of those boxes?
It says 0.5. Maybe.
Do you know what fraction is the same as 0.5?
No, I think I'm.
What fraction is not shaded?
Okay. Well, for B, so there's 8. Well, for B, there's 8 squares in total, and 4 of them are shaded, so it'll be 4/8.
And would you be able to simplify this fraction?
Yes, you can. I think. Yes. Yeah, I think you can divide them both by 2, and I think also 4.
Yeah. So use the bigger one.
So 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. So 1/2.
That's it. Okay, I think you'll be fine for the bottom one. That one's done. So equivalent fraction we've done a little bit before. It's just this is just a different way of colouring it in. So there you've got 2 out of 6.
Okay.
And it's the exact same bit below it, except they divided it up. They cut it in half again, and so it became 4 out of 12. So they doubled both numbers.
Okay.
It was the same thing. Okay, how would you do this one?
Susha has 50 counters. 30 are blue and 20 are red. What fraction of the counters are red? Write your answer in its simplest form. Well, for the first one, what fraction of the counters are red? I think the fraction would be 20 over 50.
Yeah. And they gave you that hint there.
Write your answer in its simplest form. So you can divide them both by 2 and 5. You can also divide them both by 10 as well.
So what would we divide them both by?
10.
Yes. What do you get there?
You would get 2/5.
Well done. 2/5. That's it. You'll be fine for that. That's okay. That's okay. How about these?
Use multiples to find a pair of equivalent fractions with the same denominator. The first one has been started for you. So 2/7 and 3/5 equal something 35s and something 35s. So for B, I think you would times. I think you would times 2 and 3 together.
Well, what? Because the 7 and 5 are times each other, is it?
Well, yes.
So B, so 2 over 7 is equal to something over 35.
Okay.
So what did they multiply the bottom by?
They multiplied the bottom by 5.
And so what do you do to the top?
Multiply it by 5.
Yeah, so this is just simplifying in reverse. Okay, so what goes on the top?
10.
Well done. And then how about the other one?
The second one, they did 5 times 7 to get to 5, and then you would do 3 times 7, which is 21, I think.
Yeah. Yes, that's 21. Okay, and then how about the D?
D. Right, so this time they haven't given us the bottom number, so we need to work that out and the top number. So, we need to times 6 and 5 together
Okay,
to make 30.
well done.
And then, so 6 goes into 35 times.
Mm-hmm.
So we do 1 times 5, which equals 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the second one, they times 5, 6 times get to 30. And then we need to do 2 times 6, which is 12.
Well done. Any questions there?
No, I don't have any.
Yeah, that's good. That's very good. You're good at these. I think you're going to be okay for those. So what would you give yourself for equivalent fractions?
Maybe between a half and a tick.
Okay. So this is just 2 ways of writing the same thing. So this is 1 pizza, 2 pizza, and then 4/5 of a pizza.
Okay.
And then this one is, if you counted the fifths, there would be 4/5 for the last one, and then 5/5 and 5/5. So
Okay.
5 plus 5 plus 4, 14.
Okay.
So they mean the same thing. One sec. Okay. Weird. Very weird. Okay. Yes. Okay. And compare to fractions. 4/9, 2/9. Oh, basically, yeah, you either say it's less than or greater than.
Okay.
So we'll be doing
Well-
that. Yeah, go on. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. And then adding and subtracting. Okay. Okay, so put these fractions from smallest to biggest. Any idea how you would do that?
I think you might need to get the denominators all the same. Like
Correct. Correct.
Okay. So, for this one, since there are three bottom numbers and not two, you need to work out the the biggest number that they all go into.
Yeah.
I think it's the biggest number. The biggest number they all go into is what was it? I was going to say 20, but
Yeah, that'll work.
oh, okay. So we then divide those three numbers by, well, I guess 20.
Right.
So, so 5 divided by 20 is, or 20 divided by 5 is 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then 20 divided by 10 is...
Well, what do you do with that 4?
Oh yeah, you place it above the 20.
So that would be if it was 1/5. So 4/5 equals what over 20?
5 over 20?
Well, you said you 20 divided by 5 is 4.
Yes.
So that means they times it by 4.
And then you times 4 by 4, which is 16.
Yes. So 4 over 5 is the same as 16 over 20. Okay.
Okay. And then for the next one, 4/10, you divide by 10 from 20 step to 10, or in other words, you do 10 times 2 to get to 20.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do 4 times 2, which is 8.
Yes.
And then for one quarter, it's again 20, and you times 4 by 5 to get to 20, and then you would times 1 by 5, which equals 5.
Well done. Okay, and so what would they be, smallest to biggest?
The smallest one is 1 quarter.
Yeah.
The next one is 4/10,
Yeah.
and then finally 4/5 is the biggest.
Well done. And so a mistake lots of students make is they write the answer as 5 over 20, 8 over 20, and 16 over 20. But you weren't asked for it in that form, you were asked for these ones.
Okay.
And so you did it the right way.
Okay.
Yeah, so in general, make all the denominators the same and use that to order them smallest to biggest. Any questions there?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. That's that. Okay, how about this?
So, Ella has completed 8/12 of her homework. Ben has completed 7/9 of his. Who has completed more of their homework? So 8/12 are 7/9 are the most important things. So I think you would need to make the denominators the same number.
Yeah.
So well, 9 doesn't go into 12 as a whole number.
Mm.
The closest you can get is 9 times 1, just 9 times 2 is 18. So you would then do you would
one thing that will always work is if you multiply them together, the two denominators. So for this one, you can do 5 times 4, and you'd get 20, which is what you got.
okay.
And for previous one, yeah, so 7 times 5 is 35, and you did 6 times 5 and got 30.
Okay.
So it might not be the smallest, like the lowest common denominator, but it will give you a common denominator.
Okay. So you would times 9 and 12 together,
Mm-hmm.
which would get you 108.
Okay, well done.
And then, so I think that's the denominator sorted.
Yeah.
And then you would since the denominator is the same, you don't need to do anything to the numerators.
Well, we don't. So let's say 8 over 12.
Yeah.
What is that as a fraction over 108?
8 or 12 over 108.
So what do you have to do to 12 to get 108?
Times it by 9.
And so what do you do to the 8?
Times that by 9, which gets you to 72.
Yeah. And so this is just the reverse. Before you were dividing the top and bottom by the same number. Now you're multiplying top and bottom by the same number.
Okay.
Okay, and the other one?
Um, so, yep, so you times 9, 12 times to get to 108, and then you would times 7 by 9, which is 63.
Okay. And so, who did more homework?
So who did more homework, so
Hold on. So what did you get for the 7 over 9? What was that over 108?
that was 63.
7 times. So this time you had to times 9 by 12 to get 108?
Oh, so 7 times 12, that is 84.
Well done. Okay, and so who did more homework?
Ben?
Yes, Ben completed more.
Okay.
And yeah, so that method of multiplying it by the other one will always work. So
Okay.
12 times 9 gives you 108. So it was 8 times 9 and then 7 times 12.
Okay.
Okay, what symbol goes in the middle here? How do you do that?
Well, we need to, it says you need to work out which fraction is larger. And we have 14 over 4 and 9 over 3, and both of which are improper fractions. But I think again you need to make the denominator the same.
Yeah.
And so you would do 4 times 3, which is 12.
Yeah.
And then that's the denominator sorted. For the numerators or top numbers, you would need to work out. Well, you would first need to remember what you did to the denominator to get to 12. And so we times the 4 3 times to get to 12, and then you would times 14 3 times, which is 42.
Okay.
And then for 9 thirds, you times 3 4 times to get to 12, and so 9 times 4 is 36.
Okay.
So we have 42 over 12 and 36 over 12, and so 14 over 4 is larger than 9 thirds.
And so which symbol do you use?
You would use the symbol that has its mouth pointing to the left.
Yes, that's it. Okay, any questions there?
No.
So you got that one. I got that one all by yourself. I'll leave that. So that's comparing fractions, x a half or tick.
Maybe between a half or tick or tick.
Okay. So this is the one I wanted to get to, the adding and subtracting fractions. So this uses, you have to, how do you add and subtract fractions?
You times. Well, I think first of all you work out the smallest number the denominators will both go into.
Yes, so you first get a common denominator.
Yeah, okay.
And then you go from there. So I think I think you might be good for that. Let's just... Okay. Okay, how would you do this?
So Lily painted 3/12 of a wall and Daniel painted 1/6. What fraction has been painted? So you would. I think you would add them together.
Yeah. And how do you add those two together?
Well, the method I would use is that first of all you times the two denominators together, and in this case it's 12 times 6, which is 72.
Yeah, you might be able to just see, is there a times table that both numbers are in?
For the 36.
Yeah, there's a smaller one.
The 2 times table.
So the other way, like a number, a number that that is in both of these times tables. So what number is in the 12 times table and the 6 times table? So 36 is one. Can you think of a lower one?
24.
Yeah. Can you think of an even lower one?
Let me try. I don't.
What about the very first number in the 12 times table?
Well, that's 12.
And is 12 in the 6 times table?
Yes.
So 12 will actually work. So you only... So that one is already done then.
Okay.
And then how about the other one?
It would be 3 times. 3 times. Not 12. 3 times 6.
Well, 6 times what gives you 12?
4.
No. So 1 over 6 equals something over 12.
So 3. So 4 times 3. 2.
Yeah.
So it's 12.
Yeah. And so 1 over 6 is the same as what over 12?
2 over 12.
Yes. Okay. And when you add those two, how do you do that?
Well, you just add the numerators together to make 5. So
Well done.
12.
5 over 12. So we could have done it the usual way. What happens if you do it that way is then you have to simplify it at the end.
Oh, okay.
So it would have been, something over 72, and then you just have to simplify it down.
Okay.
Okay, so 5 over 12, okay. Let's do question 3.
So, in a class, 5/8 of the children walk to school, 1/4 cycle, and the rest come by car. What fraction come by car? So we would need to make the denominators the same.
Mm-hmm.
So the lowest number that 4 and 8 will both go into is 8.
Yeah.
And so you times 8 once to get to 8. And so 5 times 1 is 5. So that one's basically already done.
Mm-hmm.
And then you times 4 2 times to get to 8. And so 1 times 2 is 2.
Yeah.
And then you add those two together to get 7/8.
And is that what the question asks us to find?
No, it says the rest come by car. So
And they wanted what fraction come by car.
yeah, but the thing is, it doesn't say how many children are in the class.
Well, what do you know about the fractions?
Well,
So 7/8 of the class. How many of the class is left over?
1
One what?
1/8.
Yeah, 1/8. Basically, fractions, the total always adds up to 1.
Okay.
And so 7/8 plus 1/8 gives you 1. And so the leftover must be 1/8.
Okay.
1/8. Any questions about that?
No, I don't have any.
So let's say the answer had been 3/5. So what would be the rest of the class then? What fraction?
So 3/5. 2/5.
Yes, exactly. That's it.
Okay.
Just come by care. What fraction came by care? So that's the one we did. How would you do the one on? No, it's quite similar. That one on the right. I think you. Let's do this one. It's a takeaway.
Okay. So for D, it's 13 over 2, take away 15 over 3, and both of them are improper fractions. So you would need to make the denominators the same.
Mm-hmm.
So you would times 2 and 3 together to make 6.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so you times 2 and 3 together to make 6, and then you then work out how many times you times, let's say 2 to get to 6, and then you times that number by 13. And so you times 2 3 times to get to 6, and so 3 times 13 is 39.
Yeah.
And then for the other one, you times 3 twice to get to 6, and so 15 times 2 is 30.
Yes. And so what do you do next?
You then simplify it.
Well, you wanted to subtract them.
Yes. So you then.
So 13 over 2, that was the same as 39 over 6?
Yes. And 15 over 3 was the same as 30 over 6.
Yeah.
And so, so 39 take away 30 is 9. 9 over 6.
Well done. Any questions there?
No, I don't think I have any.
Okay. So adding and subtracting fractions, what would you give yourself?
Maybe between a half and a tick or a tick.
Okay, I'll leave it there for now. So I want to stick with adding fractions. Would you know how to add 3 fractions together?
I might do.
So let's take this one. What would be a half plus a third plus a quarter?
A half plus a third plus a quarter. Well, for starters, you would need to make the denominators the same. So you would need to work out the smallest number that all 3 numbers go into, and that is 12, I think.
Yeah.
So the denominator will be 12. And then the numerator. So for the first one, 1/2, you times 2. You times 2 6 times to get to 12, and so 1 times 6 is 6.
Mhm.
And for the next one, you times 3 4 times to get to 12, and so 1 times 4 is 4. And then you times 4 3 times to get to 12, and so 1 times 3 is 3.
Yeah. And so, what answer do you get?
You get 13 over 12.
Well done. Let's make it a bit trickier. What if it was a half plus 2/3 minus 3/4?
3/4. So 1/2. So again, you would need to make the denominators the same, and since the denominators are the same, then the smallest number that all 3 would go into equally is 12.
Mm-hmm.
And so you times 2 6 times to get to 12, and so 1 times 6 is 6, and you times 3 4 times to get to 12, and so 2 times 4 is 8. And then for the last one, you times 4 3 times to get to 12, and so therefore 3 times 3 is 9.
Mm-hmm.
And then so 6 twelfths plus 8 twelfths is 14 over 12.
Mm-hmm.
And then 14 over 12 minus 9 twelfths is, I think, 5 over 12.
Yes, 5 over 12. Well done. Any questions there?
No, I don't think I have any.
Okay, so you did that. So that was 3 fractions, very different, and one was plus, one was minus. So that's, I think you're good for adding and subtracting fractions. Let me just do a little bit extra. Do you know how you multiply and divide fractions? Or multiply fractions?
I think you just do the same method.
And no, you just multiply the top 2, multiply the bottom 2.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So for number 1, you would do 4 times 1 and 5 times 8.
Yep.
Okay, so 4 times 1 is 4, and 5 times 8 is 40.
And could you simplify that?
You can, yes, you can simplify that by 4. Yeah, I think you can, well, you can also simplify them by 1 and 2, but the biggest one is 4.
Mm-hmm.
So 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 40 divided by 4 is 10.
Yes, 1 over 10. Any idea how to do the last one, number 3?
What is half of 6 ninths? Well, half of.
So the way you do that is you do 1/2
Okay.
times 6 ninths.
Okay. So, well, 1 times 6 is 6,
Mm-hmm.
and 2 times 9 is 18.
And can you simplify that?
And you can by 6.
Yeah.
So 6 divided by 6 is 6 and 18. And 18 divided by 6 is 3.
Yes. So that's 1 over 3. I think it'd be fine there. This one. Let's say the one on the right. Can you think of 2 fractions that will multiply to give 2 over 9?
9. So 2 ninths equals. So you would time. So you would.
So what times what could give you 2?
1. Well, 1 times 2.
And then what will go on the bottom?
3 times 3.
Yep, that's fine.
Oh, okay.
Can be anything. So here's a little test. So you have to say for this one, which is bigger, which is smaller for the first one.
Okay, so for B, so for B we have 253 over 1,000, and for the other one we have 25 over 100. You would find out. Well, you would work out the smallest number that both 1,000 and 100 both go into.
Yeah.
The smallest. Well, they both go to the 2 times table. That's the smallest I think they both go into.
So you're not trying to simplify them down. You're trying to see what's the common denominator.
Well, the common denominator is 1,000.
Yeah.
So the common one is 1,000. I think you might need to turn 100 into 1,000 then.
Yeah.
And you can do that by just adding on a 0.
Mm-hmm.
And so now the denominator are both the same. 253 bigger than 25. So therefore 253 over 1,000 is bigger than 25 over 1,000.
And so what goes in the box? How do you do it?
The greater than sign showing its mouth towards 253 over 1,000.
Yes. How about the next one?
And so Ruby and Harry each had a 100-gram bar of chocolate. Ruby has 13 sixths 16ths left, and Harry has 3/4 left. Who has more chocolate? So they each had 100. A bar of chocolate that weighs 100 grams. So, and Ruby has 13/16 left, and Harry has 3/4. So you would need to make the denominators the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so the smallest times table that they both go into is the 2 times table.
You have...
Or 4 as well, but...
No, you want to get a common multiple. So it should be bigger than at least one of them.
Well, the common multiple is 16, or
Yeah.
16. And so I think you would then need to times 4 to get to 16.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, 4 times 4 is 16. And so you times... Well, since you times 4 times get to 16, you would then times 3... you then times 3 4 times, and 3 times 4 is 12.
Yeah.
And then you would add them, take up who has more. I think you would take away.
No. So Ruby has 13/16. What fraction does Harry have?
3/4.
And that's the same as...
It's the same as 12/16.
Yeah. And so who has more?
Ruby.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
How about this next one?
Add the fractions. So, well, that's pretty easy because it's just 3 plus 4, and that equals 7.
So 7
over 12.
How about the one under it?
So 9/7 take away 4/7 is 5/7.
How about these, the multiply?
Well, 1/6 times 1/6 is 1/6.
Well, 1 times 1?
Well, 1 times 1 is 1.
And then what goes on the bottom?
36.
Oh, 36, sorry, yeah. And part B?
3 times 2 is 6.
Yeah.
And 7 times 5 is 35.
Well done. And we didn't get onto the dividing, so we would have to do that for another time.
Okay.
So let me just take one last look here. Yeah. So I think you're okay for the shaded stuff. Equivalent, so we did that a lot because we did it with other things.
Okay.
That's equivalent. So this one, yes, so next time, well, a future one we would do, the only fractions you have left to do would be dividing fractions and mixed numbers.
Okay.
And you could